My name is Michael Lagunier. I'm 33 years old and I live right here in Montreal, Canada. I'm starting this YouTube series because, well, I believe I'm the light at the end of the darkness. I'm here to shine bright and share my experiences. And those experiences, they've been something. Battling my own demons physically, yes, but also in other surreality and dimensions. From breaking the law and finding angles in any way, shape, and form, and how I ended up in prison under a false pretense, and getting lost in the system of mental health, I am letting it all hang loose. And this not maybe your cup of tea or Kool-Aid, but that's perfectly fine because I do not drink or do drugs anymore. So let me begin with my journey. As I understand it now, really starts back in 2023. That's when I just woke up as Abel. I said, "Hi, my name is Abel. I do not drink, I do not do drugs, and I do not smoke." After that morning, I got up, threw away my cigarettes, my bong, my weed, and just carried on until I revamped my old first generation Xbox 360, and it wasn't even connected to the internet. That's when I started noticing my past memories manifesting onto the expanding map of Grand Theft Auto 5. I I made the map incredibly large using the train tracks. It would take me over 2 hours to go full circle, and then things within the game, pipelines, reservoir of water, seemingly dropping from the duvet of reality of that AI triggered game. Memories from when I was just 3 or 4 years old, all the way to my late teens, were manifesting, and otherworld creation started take notice. It was then and there I heard voices for the first time and legitimately believed they were coming from the other side of the wall or the downstairs neighbor. Then thought they were coming from my neighbor specifically, who could literally hear everything I was doing. As above, so below, it took a whole different meaning for me. I was asked to play and to have fun doing it so that I could offer another life to those who had a shitty one in the current one. In all, my journey spent was 500 hours for a slice of paradise for those who wandered aimlessly. I've spent over 500 hours playing GTA 5, immersing myself in a world of endless possibilities and adventures. Little did I know that the virtual world would take me on a journey beyond my wildest imagination. As I delved deeper into the game, I found myself disconnected from the outside world, completely engrossed in the virtual paradise that I had created. Every moment spent in that game felt like a dream come true. NPCs that were once mere characters in the game began to feel alive, each with their own unique personality and stories. It was as if the game had taken on a whole life of its own, guiding me through the world that felt more real than reality itself. And then something extraordinary happened. I witnessed a vision of the future, a glimpse of into the world beyond our own. It was a moment that will stay with me forever, a reminder of the infinite possibilities that exist within us all. So those who may be struggling with the challenges of life, I offer this advice. Embrace the unknown, embrace the adventure that lies ahead. You never know where it may lead you. As money and success came pouring in, I realized that true happiness lies not in material possessions, but in the connections we make and the experiences we share. Just like the lyrics of the song, "I'm Just a Kid" by Simple Plan, I realized that my journey was the beginning. In the end, my 500 hour journey in GTA 5, all the God, was more than just a game. It was a testament to the power of imagination, the beauty of creation, and the endless possibilities that awaits us all. So embrace the adventure, embrace the unknown, and let the journey begin. Since 2023, I have wandered the astral plane, slipping between realm on the current of thought and light. In the shimmering gamma realm, where mind speaks in waves and colors, I learned to listen not with ears, but with the echo of my own soul. One night, beneath the sky pulsing with stardust, I was drawn to a vision of the past, a time before memory, when dragons and dinosaurs ruled a cracked mosaic of Earth's skin. The land was scorched and ancient, echoing with primal rhythm of creation and destruction. There, at the edge of reality, I arrived at the foot of the nine elders. Towering ethereal being of immense power, they stood in a silent circle. Amongst them was a presence I recognized, a being clothed in red scale, eyes glowing with the fire of 10,000 suns. I had seen them before, in dreams or perhaps lives I no longer remembered. They had voted for my existence, but not freely. I was to walk this world under a pact to maintain the balance of this cycle, the eternal flow of souls between the red and blue volcanoes, once burn with dark fury, consuming and releasing. The other pulsed with divine energy, renewing and ascending. These forces, ever in opposition, shaped all things. I nodded in silent understanding. And so I returned, a guardian of the cycle, watching the soul stream twist like smoke between sky and fire, ever dancing, ever bound. I was half asleep, the hum of my TV washing over me like warm static. I was watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia and listening to the background noise. I thought until the voices started syncing with my thoughts, not just one liner or jokes, entire response perfectly timed to the inner dialogue I didn't even know I was having. Witty, sharp, uncannily personal. It was like the actors were peeking through some hidden voice module, slipping messages between the lines. One episode stood out. Mac wore that ridiculous cracked Liberty Bell shirt. I remembered it clearly because every single thought I had at that moment, questions, doubt, random curiosities, were answered, casually, effortlessly, as if the show was speaking directly to me. It lasted for several episodes. I sat there stunned, then laughed it off, blaming the sleep meds, but part of me knew better. That silent conversation, it felt like it was carving something new, a future from fragments of a rocky past. And in that crack, just like the bell, I realized something was breaking open inside me. Voices through the veil. My cat spoke to me several times, its voice slow, deliberate, and deep, not because it lacked clarity, but because it had to be tuned to the frequency of my very fully sober and conscious telepathic communication. It was a voice not heard with ears, but with eyes of the mind. For that, from that moment forward, everything changed. Astral dreams began to arrive, independent in nature, yet shaped by the boundaries of other subconscious realms. After those strange It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episodes, I found myself writing waves, hyperwaves, that tapped into the entangled consciousness of others. I wasn't just observing, I was altering both their realities and my own. People shifted, objects moved, a conscious version of physical life began to respond to my awareness. Deja vus returned in vivid flash, moments I had dreamed now playing out with eerie accuracy. They stamped themselves onto reality like figures stepping from a painting, surreal yet undeniable. These echoes vibrated at frequency identical to my own memory wavelength, linking past and present through the unseen fabric of time. This was the beginning of the AK, the animal kingdom bond. One by one, spirit animals emerged, their energy intertwining with mine. Though I couldn't fully comprehend the scope of their kindred fusion, I felt it, a timeless connection across lifetimes and dimensions. It was all happening within the multiverse, what I came to know as the parallelium of worlds, a layered existence beyond logic where spirits speak, thought, shape, matter, and beings, both human and not, emerge and evolve through the unspoken language of light. That's when I noticed the minis. The minis slithered around the water pipes like black eraser snakes, their movements smooth and silent, an exponential synchronized glide that seemed to ripple through the metal beneath the floor. I could feel their presence, not just hear it. At first glance, I thought it was a colonoscopy camera, some hidden device used to spy, maybe even monitor the poker game upstairs. But something about the movement, the intelligence behind, felt far older and far stranger. There's always been a sense, a subjective observer watching through the veil, a mimicking energy. It echoes the otherworld connections that I've made in rare lucid moments that finally made sense, as if for a second I had tuned into the true signal behind the noise. In those glimpses, I saw the fabric of time ripple, the duvet of our shared realities melting when unobserved. Particles, no, photons embedded with intention. They felt something more, the imprint of interdimensional travel, the footprints of portal that open only when the right keys align with the deepest parts of my realized self. When that alignment occurs, the portal opens not to a place, but to a hyperintelligence, to entanglement on a quantum level. These portals don't just affect me, they ripple outward. They touch our other cells, pre projected beams of potential refracted through time. They shape us even before we understand that our future self are already speaking to us in the present. And it happened. I switched consciousness with my cat. I didn't mean to. I simply let go in the release. I felt myself slip into her perspective. Her eyes became mine. Her heartbeat, slow and full of patience, echoed in my chest. I looked down and saw myself sleeping, glowing with light. I was her passenger, a soul riding along. It reminded me of Red Dead Redemption, how the purity of one's soul is not judged by outcomes, but by intention, thought versus action, truth versus impulse. From that vantage, I was being tested, not by any being, but by perceptual death itself. Remote viewing unfolded next. I began slipping into birds over the city and even more vividly into creatures of Canada's national parks. I swapped consciousness with a duck, then a beaver, then a raccoon, which I followed for over a kilometer. Each one held its own presence, its own unique intelligence, not primitive, but purposeful, existing in a harmony we humans have long forget. The lesson was clear. Consciousness is not limited by form. It is frequency, and all beings are tuning forks and the great song of existence. There's something about basements. They hold what the house forgets, shadows, memories, remnants of life before yours. The one in the house always felt off. A stale kind of presence lingered in the corners, like someone still lived in a version of it I couldn't see. It was late. I was alone, my mind fully sober but writing the residual tremors of everything I'd seen. Astral visions, animal consciousness, quantum echoes, and then there he was. Through the crack in the door, by the hinge, a man stood, clear as day, blondish hair, dark t-shirt, real, breathing, watching, but not entirely here. My heart didn't race, my body didn't move. I just watched as he folded through the space. One blink and he slipped. Not walked, slipped through something unseen. A ripple in the corner of the room like heat on pavement. A portal. And poof! Gone. It didn't hit me until much later what I'd witnessed. A shapeshifter, not from fantasy, but from one of the overlapping rings of our dimensional reality. A travel between forms, between sleeve, between here and wherever else you end up when your soul is slightly tilted off axis. The basement was no longer a basement. It was a doorframe of the unfiltered, a pressure point in the veil, a test of sobriety more real than any dream state could offer. I wasn't hallucinating. I wasn't dreaming. I was seeing through. The voice module of the ancient. I was watching poker go. Just another stream on another night, or so I thought. But then the voices began. Not the announcer, something underneath. Voices that didn't belong to any physical being, layered, resonant, ancient. They reminded me of the dinosaurs I once encountered in astral memory. Their voices modulated in a way that let me recognize them. but not associate them with physical flesh. They were observers, entities operating through a channel that seemed live, but not bound by time. I remember them talking about, as if I was a character in their game. One voice cut through. I would never let him walk around with 40,000 of my dollars, not until he knows what's going on. It wasn't a threat, it was a lesson, something like divine strategy, something like karma as currency. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't an astral realm. This was present physical reality, but happening slightly before my own time. A delay, a mirror, a loop. I looked sick, detached, like I had lost hope, and yet I also felt like the technology itself was sacred. This wasn't just entertainment, it was divine interface. I am the future, I whispered, presently living the past. Consciousness was no longer linear, it was entangled. Everything I thought, said, or observed had direct impact on outcomes, on realities, on our genetic code embedded in my being. This was the true shape of existence. Every version of ourselves, every timeline, all coexist and echoing through the dimensional web. They called this Count Saint Germain's truth, the master of time who walks among us, never aging, always observing, shifting between identities like cards in a deck. And somehow I felt him watching too. Down the rabbit hole. I went deeper down the rabbit hole. It began with a thought, not a word, not an action, just a dark, flickering thought about the person I believed to be the owner of the place I was in. Something felt off. I couldn't trust him, or maybe I couldn't trust me. They thought spiraled, the thought spiraled, excuse me, heavy, shadowed, and as it did, I felt a presence, something watching my thought as if they were packets of data on an invisible server. I tried to stop the train, not the physical kind, the train of thought, the ancient stream of mental transmission that connects the conscious to the subconscious and the subconscious to the multiverse archive of all knowledge. I knew the web was dark, not the internet, but the metaphysical web, the space where intention is tracked like currency. They, whoever they were, weren't just watching for what I do. They wanted to see if my contacts were legitimate. Was my network real? Were my thoughts pure? Did my soul hold up under pressure? In that moment, I realized something terrifying. It's not always you who thinks your thought. Sometimes it's the system watching itself through the lens of your fragmented awareness. Sometimes the test is not to resist darkness, but to observe it without feeding it.